Hi, 𝗙𝗵𝗺 here from 𝗙𝗵𝗺 Racing. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but here we are about to jump back on the coach. We actually had a really good tail and bend, which was our last round, and prepared extremely well for Winton. And I was personally really excited to get down there and after the test day we had, see what kind of results we could get. Both Dave and Andre were really pumped, did a great job at the test day, and we should have had a pretty solid weekend, but as we all know, unfortunately that was cancelled. We've been wondering what the plan is since then, and we've just got the news now that we've got to jump back on the coach and head into 𝗙𝗵𝗺 to self-isolate for 14 days prior to heading up to Darwin. So amazing to get all the guys back on the coach after what we put them through last year. It's actually a pretty big ask to go and do the same thing again for probably 2, 3, 4 weeks. There's always an unknown at the end of these things. Luckily, when we got back last year, I had the coach completely resprayed, a brand new set of tyres on the front. Maddie's just putting the final touches on it, and it'll serve us well for hopefully not 106 days this time, but a quick trip up into 𝗙𝗵𝗺 on a plane to Darwin, and then hopefully we can have a good weekend there. So follow us along the way. We're going to try and get a lot of fitness stuff into the guys rather than being jammed in a motel room somewhere in Sydney. We're actually heading back to our station. So we've last minute last night made a little pit stop rig just to hold a wheel, a bit of gym gear in the bottom. So hopefully we show the guys a good time and we arrive at Darwin really well prepared for the event. Let's go. Everyone knows how important pit stops are in supercars these days, and in normal circumstances we'd be doing this every day back at the workshop in Melbourne, but being here in isolation in 𝗙𝗵𝗺, last minute we welded up a little frame here. Ed, our Fabby back at the workshop, did that basically as the coach was about to roll out. So we've set this up here at the farm, ratchet strapped it to a pole, and at least the guys are getting some practice in before Darwin. With the situation we're all in, it's quite risky to end up not having a full crew that we'd normally have at a race meeting. So we've dragged some of the guys back out. Winnow hasn't actually been on a pit crew since 2015. He's back on deck now, getting his eye back in. And Dennis and Maddie are also jumping in just as emergency spares in case we have any issues staffing wise over the rest of this championship, as we don't quite know what to expect. This has worked really well. It served its purpose to get everyone's eye in, but as you can see, there's no bodywork around this wheel arch, so naturally the guys are starting to creep in and use space here that won't actually be available on the car. So stage one of the upgrade, we've added some jerry cans here so that they can't walk around the wheel, and that didn't really do the job for the space around the top. So we scrounged around yesterday and found a piece of timber up at the shearers' quarters at the farm, and we're about to cut that up and make a bit of body work so that they can have at least a slightly more realistic experience around the wheel. On top of that, we've got one spindle and two wheels, but there's a good chance at Darwin the guys are going to have to do the whole side of the car. So after we do the timber thing, we're going to actually have to work out some sort of system to get them moving and replicating, going from the front and the back of the car. Quite challenging. Obviously all the Queensland teams are doing this as per normal in the lead up to Darwin, but we're making do here, and we're going to get the job done and hopefully nail all this stuff for Darwin.
Oh, we've actually done two things.
Go. We've finally arrived here in Darwin. We stayed up at our station in New South Wales for our 14 days of isolation. We shot from our station in New South Wales across to Sydney Airport and flew out last night. We arrived here in Darwin at 2 AM this morning, and today we're just starting to practice our pit stop practice. You saw we did a little bit of that up at our farm in New South Wales. We've got 2 guys on the crew now that haven't done any pit stops, not only this year, last year. One hasn't done any for 4 or 5 years, and one of them hasn't actually been on the pit crew at all. So we did as much practice as we possibly could on our little pit stop rig at the station, and now this is the first time that we're doing it for real with a car, and they can actually change the front and the rear wheel at the same time. So you can see there's no one else in pit lane here other than us. We've got quite a bit of catching up to do compared to the other teams that haven't been in the situation as what we have as a Victorian team. Hopefully they can get all this nailed. We've got tomorrow as well for a little bit more practice, and then we're into the race weekend.